Hey guys, Dave from Guitars Already Hero, and in this video I'll be doing a demo, review and guide on the Boss RC-5 looper pedal. And on top of that, I'll teach you one of my favorite looping exercises to try at home that really helps expand your knowledge of triads and the fretboard. If you already have a looper, then feel free to skip straight to that exercise at the end of this video. So first let's talk about the pedal itself. Now there's several different models within the Boss loop station range, and this is the second most affordable model after the Boss RC-1. If you're new to looping, then this is a really great option that isn't too complicated, but it has enough features for you to grow into as you develop as a musician and guitar player. Now the main features of this pedal include 99 memory bank presets to save your loops and rhythms, up to 13 hours of inbuilt recording time, a built-in drum machine with 7 different kits and 57 different rhythms, full stereo looping in 32-bit sound quality, the ability to expand functionality with external foot switches, a USB port to import and export loops to your computer, and there's also a cool reverse looping function if you want to experiment with interesting soundscapes. Now let's compare that to the Boss RC-1, which can only store and save one loop with unlimited overdubs and has a max of 12 minutes recording time, no drum machine, 16-bit sound quality, some basic external foot switch control capabilities, and that's pretty much it. So in my opinion, if you can afford it, go the RC-5 over the RC-1, as there's just so much more you can do with it. And honestly, creating loops with the rhythm backing is just so much more fun in my opinion. And it also does help you with your rhythm. Having said that, if all you really want is a simple looper pedal and you don't really care about saving your loops and you just use it for simple practice, then the Boss RC-1 is also great too. And the exercise that I show you later can be done with the Boss RC-1. Okay, so let's run through how to use the Boss RC-5 as a standalone looper, ignoring the drum machine for now. To scroll between memory banks, simply use the navigation knob in the top right corner. Pushing the knob down will allow you to control the volume of your loop. But we don't have a loop yet, so let's lay down a loop. Simply tap the pedal to start recording and to enter record mode indicated in red. Tap again at the end of your loop and now we'll be in playback mode indicated in green. To add an overdub, tap again and you'll be in overdub record mode indicated in yellow. Now let's say you didn't like the overdub you recorded and want to undo. Tap and hold the pedal until the LED display goes back to green and the overdub will be deleted. You can redo the same way by again tapping the pedal and holding it until the screen hits green playback mode. You can add an unlimited amount of overdubs, so let's add one more. To stop playback, simply tap the pedal twice quickly in succession. If you want to save your loop, ensure playback is paused first and then push the setup and memory button together, which will then ask you which bank to save it. Push the knob down again and your loop will now be stored. To start fresh and completely delete your whole loop, simply tap and hold down the pedal when playback is paused and the LED display will turn to blue, indicating a blank slate. When you record a loop with no drum backing, the RC-5 will essentially try to figure out the tempo of your loop and will automatically flash in time. I found this to be generally accurate most of the time. The more accurate your timing is when you record, the better this will be, and that will really help if you want to use the drum machine later on. On the LED indicator, the top bar shows you the tempo beat and the bottom bar shows you the playback progress of your loop. Okay, now let's take a look at the drum machine, which is an amazing feature and really sets the RC-5 apart from the RC-1 as it helps with inspiration and creating ideas. To turn on the drum machine, push the on and off rhythm button. A flashing light will indicate that the drum machine will begin playing when you start a recording or you begin playback. Push it again and the drum machine will start playing even if you're not recording a loop. This is great if you just want to jam and get a feel for the drum beat. You can set the tempo by tapping the tempo button to your desired tempo, or by tapping the tempo button and then using the knob to finally adjust. To change your drum machine parameters, you can enter the settings by either holding down the rhythm on/off button or by tapping the memory button, then scrolling to rhythm settings. Let's change a few parameters of our drum kit. Now, in order to change time signatures, you need to stop the drum machine first by toggling the rhythm on/off button. Then you can go back into the settings and adjust the time signature as you please. Now, every single memory bank will start off with the same drum kit and rhythm and time signature. So if you like looping in 6/8 or 3/4 or any other time signature and you want to use the drum machine, then it's a good idea to change this in the settings and save it to a blank memory so that next time you come back to it, the rhythm settings will be saved and it's not in the default 4/4 rhythm. Now let's take a look at recording a loop with the drum machine. First off, you want to pick your beat and tempo and either have the drum machine on or on standby, shown with the flashing lights. This will indicate that the drum machine will start as soon as you push record on the pedal. Personally, I like to hear the beat and get into the groove before laying down track. So a really good setting is to go into the rhythm settings, go to start and change this setting to before loop. So now when you tap the pedal, it will start playing the drum beat to help you get into the groove. When you tap again, you will then start recording your loop. Another cool setting I like to use if I'm not recording to a drum beat is the auto record setting. To activate this mode, go into memory settings of your particular loop bank and then scroll to auto record and turn it on. With this setting, to record your loop, you won't need to push the pedal at the same time that you start playing. You can simply start playing and the pedal will automatically start recording as soon as it hears a signal coming through the pedal. So you got to be careful not to make any noise on your guitar before you start playing your loop. After you start playing, you'll simply just need to push the pedal at the end of your loop and that's it. Now let's take a quick look at expanding our foot controls with an external foot switch. Above the input jack, we have the stop memory shift input. Here you can insert a TRS cable to an external foot switch such as the Boss FS6 or FS7 to expand your hands-free control. For example, in this particular setup, I've assigned my A button to toggle on or off the reverse loop feature. So let's play a loop and reverse it. And then reverse it back to normal. If you don't have an external foot switch, the only way to activate this is to go through the settings and turn it on, which is a bit of a hassle, but with the external foot switch, it's super simple. And on my B button, I've assigned this to toggle on or off the drum machine. Again, this usually can only be done by reaching over and pushing buttons, but with an external foot switch, you get more control over that. To assign different controls for the external foot switch, simply go into Setup, then Control, and then you can scroll to set your Control 1 and Control 2 functions. Note that if you're using an FS6, Control 1 is assigned to button B and Control 2 is assigned to button A. I just want to quickly talk about the USB functionality. With the Boss RC-5, you can plug it directly to your computer using a USB Type B cable to either import or export the loops that you've created in the Tone Studio for RC application. Within the Tone Studio, you'll also see dozens of track sets which have pre-recorded backing tracks and loops for you to send directly to your RC-5 and use for inspiration. It's as simple as clicking the download button and then selecting which bank you want to save the loop on. Alternatively, you can upload your own loops or export the ones that you've created on the RC-5. So let's take a listen to one of the loops that I downloaded from the Tone Studio for RC. Now in this section, I just want to note how you should apply this pedal in your setup. Now, ideally, you want to place this pedal at the very end of your guitar amp's FX, send, and return if your amp has one. And here's why. Now, if you simply place the looper pedal in front of the amp and not into an FX loop, any signal going out of the looper and into the amp will be affected by the amp's settings, whether that's distortion or other onboard effects that you might have on the amp. And this could result in your drum machine having distortion, for example, and it's not what you want. On top of that, if you record a loop and then you want to change tones to solo over your existing loop, then your loop will also be changing tones because that's feeding that loop to the amp, which is at the end of your signal chain and dictating the looper's tone. Now compare that to the ideal setup where your looper is at the end of the FX loop chain. What happens here is that your guitar signal goes into your amp and then the tone is affected by the preamp, any other effects pedals or inbuilt effects that you might have, and then out to the FX loop. And when it hits the looper pedal, the looper is receiving the signal with all the distortion and all the effects already applied. So now when you change your tone, all of the existing FX and tones of your loop are retained, and the drum machine is a clean signal because it's not affected by anything in front of it. It's at the very end and just coming out of the speaker. If you're using the KATANA 100, ensure patches are saved with the send and return set as post reverb, so your loops retain the reverb and delays. Otherwise, when you swap patches, the reverb will disappear and take on the reverb settings of the new patch. And let me demonstrate that. Okay, so I've got a patch here with a lot of reverb and delay, so it's very clear. Now, if I record this onto the looper, because we're set to post amp, as soon as we swap to another patch, all that reverb and delay is going to disappear. Let me demonstrate. So let's go to another patch. And you can hear that the reverb and delay is gone now. So it is a good idea if you're using a Boss KATANA with a looper, set your patches to post reverb, especially if you want to keep those delay and reverbs into your loop. The opposite applies as well. If we record a tone and then we swap to a patch that has send and return to post amp, then it's going to be taking on that additional reverb and additional delay. So if your original tone already has reverb and delay and you record that to a loop and then you swap to another patch that has more reverb and delay, it's going to be compounding. So you don't want that. So be sure to keep your patches consistent when it comes to their settings. Let me demonstrate. This is a clean tone. And when I swap to the patch that is set to post amp, because it's in front of the reverb and delay, it's going to be passed through that signal. As you can hear. Now that's not ideal in many scenarios, so that's a tip for you guys using the Boss KATANA 100 with the send and return. Be sure to use post reverb, otherwise your reverb delays are going to get all mixed up. Now, if you don't have an FX loop, that's fine. You can put it in front of your amp, and this is okay if you're happy using one tone to loop and solo on top of, and you're not using the drum machine. But if you want to experiment with mixing tones and the like and using the drum machine, an FX send and return is ideal for this particular pedal. So finally, I just want to show you one fun looper exercise that really helps you to navigate the fretboard and learn your major and minor triads. First of all, let me show you the 3 major triad shapes on the G, B, and E strings. Let's start with root position. So it looks like this. Now, for this particular example, we're going to be playing a C major triad. So that's C, E, and G. Now, the root position triad shape is essentially the bottom part of a 5th string major bar chord. So this is a 5th string major bar chord with our root note being the C. So we're just taking the bottom 3 strings of that shape. And that is our root position major triad. You can locate and name this shape by the note of the 3rd string. So if this is a C note, then this is a C major triad or a C major chord. Similarly, if that is an E note, that's an E major triad or E major chord. The second triad shape is called the first inversion, and it's basically the bottom half of a 6th string major bar chord. So we have a C major 6th string bar chord here. We're just taking the top 3 strings here, and we can locate and name this triad using the high E string. So if that's a C note, this shape is a C major triad. Now, what's the difference between that and that? Well, the only difference is those 3 notes that make up the major chord, C, E, and G, are just flipped. So we have C, E, G here, but we have E, G, C here. They're just in a different order. Now, our 3rd major triad shape, called the second inversion, is based off a D chord shape, like this. So you're all familiar with the D major chord. We're just going to take the top 3 strings. Okay, so that's a D note on the 2nd string, so therefore this is a D triad. So we can locate and name this particular triad shape using the 2nd string. So if that's a C note, then that is a C major triad. That's our 3rd inversion shape. So there's the 3 major triad shapes on these strings. To create the minor triad variations of these shapes, all we need to do is take the major 3rd note of these shapes and move them down 1 fret. And then we have these 3 minor shape triads shown in the graphic below. So for example, in our root position, we have root, 3rd, and 5th. If we take our 3rd and just take it down 1 fret, now we have a minor triad shape. And we do this to all 3 of our major triad shapes, taking that major 3rd down, and then we're left with 3 minor triad shapes. And they all look like this. So we have root position, then first inversion, and then second inversion. Cool, so now that's out of the way, using our looper pedal, let's create a 2-chord chord progression using the 2 and 1 chord of any key. So let's use the key of A major, for example. So the 1 chord is an A major and the 2 chord is a B minor. So let's create our loop. So this is going to play again and again, and we're going to target our triads and play every single variation of them on top of the chord. Alright, so let's start with our A major chord and root position. That's A note, right? So root position here. Let's go in here. Root position. First inversion. But then when we change the minor chord, let's start playing the minor triads. So let's try with the A again. First inversion, second inversion. We'll go in B minor now. Root, second inversion. And repeat it again. first inversion, second inversion, root, first inversion, second inversion. Now ideally do this with one key first, and then you can apply this with any key. That way it'll test you locating those triads up and down the neck. So let's try another key. Let's try E major. Now the 1 chord is an E major and the 2 chord is an F sharp minor. Let's start with the minor chord first and then go to the major chord. And this might sound a bit familiar. It's actually Don't Let Me Down by the Beatles. So a minor triads down. Now let's go the E major, E major, E major, E major, F minor, F sharp minor, sorry, F sharp minor, F sharp minor, and then E. Now you don't have to go in order as well. You can just jump between different triads. Once you get good, you can layer your triads on top. So let's overdub the triads. And you can solo on top. Give that exercise a shot. When I was first learning triads, I came up with this exercise and it really helped me to learn all the triad shapes. And I had a lot of fun doing it, which is the most important part. So there's my overview of the Boss RC-5 pedal, a really cool tool for experimenting and developing your playing as a guitarist and songwriter. And I feel this pedal is in the sweet spot when it comes to features relative to cost. And I would certainly suggest this over the Boss RC1 if your budget allows for it. Now there are a couple of things that I wasn't a massive fan of. Number one, not being able to control the rhythm variations with the foot switches. Now this functionality is only reserved for MIDI. So there is a MIDI in and out at the back of this pedal. So you'll need a MIDI pedal if you want to change those particular settings. But I thought it would have been nice if you could change rhythm variations, for example, with just your regular Boss FS6 and FS7. And number two, not being able to universally control all the memory and rhythm settings. It would be nice in the RC Tone Studio if it allowed you to quickly change the default drum, tempo, and loop settings without having to do it one by one on the pedal on each patch. One other thing I did want to mention is that this thing chews through 9-volt batteries. I've got about 3 hours of playtime with one fresh 9-volt battery. So if you do want to use this looper, I would really encourage you to get a 9-volt DC power adapter as well. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this review and demo of the Boss RC-5 looper pedal. If you have any questions about this pedal, then leave them in the comments below. If you want to find out more about this pedal, I'll leave a link in the description. Thanks so much, guys. Be sure to hit that like button, hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time on Guitar Zero to Hero. Cheers.